You are not your thoughts. But if you're not careful, your thoughts will become your life. Most people walk around every single day carrying an invisible weight on their shoulders, the weight of negative thinking and the tragedy. They don't even know it's there. The mind is like a garden. If you don't plant and water the right seeds, weeds will take over. And negative thinking is the fastest growing weed in the human brain. It creeps in through fear, comparison, regret, anxiety, and left unchecked, it poisons everything. You see, the first truth you need to understand is this: your thoughts are not facts. Just because a voice inside your head says you're not enough doesn't mean it's true. That voice, the one that says you'll fail, it's too late, or you're not worthy, that voice is not yours. It was borrowed from pain from the past, from someone who didn't believe in themselves and passed that limitation onto you. But here's the empowering part: you can take your mind back. Negative thinking cannot survive in the presence of awareness. The moment you become conscious of a thought, you gain the power to challenge it, interrupt it, and replace it. That's the beginning of killing it. Every single person who has achieved greatness in any field has battled with negative thoughts. The difference: they didn't feed those thoughts. They didn't let them stay. They learned to recognize that inner voice of doubt and respond with something stronger: truth, evidence, action. Because the best way to kill a lie is with truth. When your mind says, you can't handle this, remind yourself of everything you've already survived. When your mind says, you're not good enough, list the skills, the growth, the resilience you've built. But it's not just about mental exercises. It's also about emotional conditioning. You have to train your emotional state daily. Start your day with gratitude. Move your body to shift your physiology. Ask powerful questions like, what am I excited about today? What challenge can I grow from today? Who needs me to show up as my best today? These aren't feel-good habits. They are neuroscience-backed strategies to redirect your brain from fear into focus, from doubt into drive. Let's go deeper, because thought doesn't live in isolation. Your environment matters. If you're constantly surrounded by people who complain, criticize, gossip, your brain will mirror that negativity. But if you place yourself in an environment where excellence is expected, where optimism is normal, where growth is celebrated, guess what? Your mind will elevate automatically. You also have to stop reacting. Negative thoughts love reaction. That quick anger, that sudden fear, that spiraling worry, it thrives when you don't pause. So train your nervous system to pause. Take a breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Get present. In that space between trigger and response, you reclaim your power. And here's the final truth I'll leave you with: you don't overcome negative thinking once. You overcome it daily. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it grows through repetition. Daily mindset rituals, daily emotional workouts. You don't wait for the negative thoughts to go away. You override them one empowered decision at a time. So stop letting your thoughts run the show. Interrupt the story. Create a new pattern. Because your best life starts after you kill your negative thinking. And you can start that process right now. You want to change your life. Then start by changing the way you think. Because your thoughts shape everything. Every single result in your life right now, your relationships, your finances, your body, your emotions, they're all byproducts of your dominant thoughts. You cannot think like a victim and live like a champion. It doesn't work that way. You cannot expect to feel peace when your inner dialogue is filled with fear, blame, comparison, and self-doubt. The way you think is not just some passive mental activity. It's the programming that drives your behavior, your energy, your decisions, and your identity. People say, I feel stuck. But the truth is, most of them aren't stuck in their circumstances. They're stuck in their thinking. They've repeated the same thoughts so many times that those thoughts have become beliefs, and now those beliefs control them. A person who keeps thinking, I'm not good enough, will sabotage opportunities. A person who constantly thinks, it's too late for me, will never take bold action. Why? Because thoughts drive emotions, and emotions determine action. And no action means no progress. So when you change your thoughts, you're not just changing how you feel in the moment, you're literally shifting the trajectory of your entire life. But most people never take control of this. They just accept whatever thoughts pop into their head and assume they're true. They don't even realize that they're allowing random, conditioned, outdated thoughts to dictate their future. It's like letting a 5-year-old drive your car. And then they wonder why they crash emotionally, why they have breakdowns, why they can't find peace. Your mind is powerful, but it doesn't care what you program into it. It'll run whatever you feed it. So if you feed it doubt, fear, limitations, that becomes your reality. But if you start feeding it faith, possibility, purpose, that changes everything. Here's the truth: you're never going to eliminate all negative thoughts forever. That's not the goal. The goal is to become so aware of your thoughts that you stop being a prisoner to them. You become the observer, the commander, the one who decides which thoughts stay and which ones get deleted. You stop being reactive and you start being intentional. This is how transformation begins, when you realize that your thoughts are choices, not destiny. You need to understand that there's a direct link between your thoughts and the results you experience. You can't create a powerful, confident, purpose-driven life with thoughts rooted in fear, guilt, or regret. It just doesn't work. That's why step 1 is recognizing the pattern. Start paying attention to the thoughts that repeat in your head every day. Are they empowering? Are they pushing you forward? Or are they keeping you small, anxious, angry, or afraid? The scary part is this: if you think a thought enough times, it becomes your identity. Someone who constantly thinks, I'm not lovable, will start seeing proof of that belief everywhere. Even if it's not true, they'll reject love when it shows up. They'll push people away. Why? Because their brain is always working to prove the dominant thoughts right. This is why it's so important to protect your mind like your life depends on it, because it does. If you don't take control of your thoughts, your life becomes a reflection of whatever programming got planted in your head when you were younger. And most of that was based on fear, not truth. You weren't born negative. You learned it. Somewhere along the way, someone told you what you couldn't do. Someone made you feel small. Maybe life hit you hard and you started believing that the pain was permanent. But now you have to unlearn all that. You have to challenge the thoughts that are keeping you stuck. You have to interrupt the automatic patterns, because the moment you catch a limiting thought and say, that's not true, you're already winning. That awareness is the first crack in the wall. That's where light starts to enter. This is not about positive thinking for the sake of pretending everything is fine. It's about aligning your thinking with truth, with possibility, with purpose. It's about choosing thoughts that serve your highest future, not your past pain. And yes, it takes work. Yes, it takes repetition, but so does everything worth having. And once you make this shift, once you begin mastering your thoughts instead of being mastered by them, everything changes, your energy changes, your focus changes, your actions change, and ultimately your life begins to match the power of your new intentional mindset. Most people walk around with a voice inside their head that constantly tells them they're not good enough, not smart enough, not worthy, or not capable. The sad part is they actually believe it. They think that voice is them. But here's the truth. That voice is not you. It's the voice of your conditioning of past pain, failure, criticism, and fear that was never healed. That voice of self-sabotage was built over time, layer by layer, experience by experience. Maybe it came from a parent who never believed in you, or a teacher who shamed you, or a failure that convinced you to play small. And now that voice has become so familiar that you mistake it for your own thoughts. You need to understand that there's a part of your mind, the subconscious, that holds on to every moment you've ever experienced, especially the painful ones. It doesn't filter, it doesn't forget, it simply stores. And when a new situation comes up, that part of you searches its memory bank and whispers, be careful, remember last time, it thinks it's protecting you. But what it's really doing is keeping you stuck in fear, stuck in hesitation, stuck in a story that no longer serves you. The voice of self-sabotage is subtle. It doesn't scream, it whispers. It shows up when you're about to take a risk, when you're about to speak up, when you're about to change your life. It says things like, who are you to do that? You always fail. Why try again? They're going to laugh at you. And because that voice has been around for so long, you believe it must be telling the truth. But here's the reality. That voice is not truth. It's a pattern. And patterns can be broken. The first step is recognition. You've got to become aware of when that voice shows up and what it says. Start listening, not to obey it, but to identify it. Because once you can name it, you can confront it. You can challenge it. You can replace it. For example, if the voice says, you always mess things up, you can stop and ask always, really? What about the times I succeeded? What about the things I've overcome? That question alone starts to unravel the lie. You must understand, self-sabotage isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a signal that your mind is still being run by old programming. And the beautiful thing is you can reprogram it. You do that by repetition, by speaking truth louder than the lies, by creating new beliefs through evidence and experience. Every time you take action in spite of that voice, you weaken it. Every time you prove it wrong, you rob it of its power. This is not about silencing your mind completely. It's about taking back control. That voice might still show up, but you don't have to give it the steering wheel anymore. You get to hear it, acknowledge it, and then decide. That's not who I am anymore. That's just a habit of thought, not my identity. You also need to start building a new voice, a voice of belief, strength, and courage. It won't sound natural at first because it's unfamiliar, but with practice, that voice becomes stronger, and eventually it becomes your default. That voice says, I've failed, but I've learned. It says, I'm not perfect, but I'm growing. It says, I am capable of becoming more than I ever imagined. And that voice, when cultivated daily, will lead you, guide you, and empower you. Think about this. Most of your self-sabotage comes from moments when you were too young or too overwhelmed to defend yourself. But you're not that person anymore. You've survived. You've grown. And now it's time to stop living based on the wounds of your past. Because if you don't confront that internal critic, it will keep sabotaging every opportunity, every relationship, every dream you dare to pursue. It's not enough to think positively once. You have to rewire the narrative. You do that by feeding your mind the truth every day, by surrounding yourself with people who see your greatness even when you forget, by writing new beliefs and speaking them with emotion, and by doing the work, especially when it's uncomfortable, because the only thing more dangerous than the voice that tells you can't is your silence when it speaks. Speak back, interrupt the pattern, declare who you really are. Your destiny is too big to be controlled by a voice rooted in fear. And once you kill that inner saboteur, once you rise above it, you'll finally be able to move with clarity, confidence, and conviction, not just in what you do, but in who you are becoming. Most people are stuck in a cycle of emotional reaction without even knowing it. Something happens, a person says something, a situation unfolds, a plan goes sideways, and instantly the mind reacts. Anger, fear, frustration, worry. It's automatic, like a switch being flipped. And because they've been reacting this way for years, it feels normal, but just because it's normal doesn't mean it's effective. In fact, it's often the exact reason they stay stuck. When you react without thinking, you're not in control. Your past, your conditioning, your wounds are. That's where negative thinking lives. It feeds off emotional reactivity. It thrives in the gap between the trigger and your awareness. The key to taking your power back lies in breaking that automatic pattern. Instead of reacting, you learn to respond, and there's a massive difference between the two. Reaction is impulsive, emotional, unconscious. It's survival mode thinking. But response, that's conscious, that's intentional. That's grounded in clarity, not chaos. It means you choose your thoughts instead of letting them choose you. You pause, you breathe, you assess, you ask, is this thought helpful right now? Is this fear even real? Is there a better way to see this moment? That tiny pause, just a few seconds of stillness can change everything. Most people underestimate the power of the pause. They think they have to figure everything out instantly. They think they have to fight every thought, solve every problem, fix every emotion, but they don't. Sometimes all it takes is space to separate what happened from how you interpret it. That space is where strength lies, because in that space, you get to decide how you want to show up. You get to choose who you want to be in the moment. And when you consistently choose calm over chaos and tension over impulse, you begin to rewire your mind. Negative thinking loses its grip when you stop reacting to it. Imagine a thought comes up. You're not ready. In a reactive state, you believe it instantly, you spiral, you quit. But in a responsive state, you pause and challenge it. You say, where's the evidence? What if I am ready, just scared? That's the shift. That's the power of response. It doesn't mean you won't feel the emotion. It means the emotion won't run your life. This level of mental discipline is not about pretending everything is fine. It's not fake positivity. It's real power. It's understanding that emotions are signals, not commands. They're messengers, not masters. When you learn to observe them instead of obey them, you begin to master yourself. And once you master yourself, no situation can control you. Every reaction you've had in the past was programmed through repetition. Maybe you grew up in chaos, so stress feels familiar. Maybe you were judged often, so criticism triggers you deeply. Maybe you failed before, so setbacks now feel like proof that you're not enough. But here's the truth. None of that defines you. It shaped your reactions, yes, but you're not your reactions, but the awareness behind them. And that awareness can choose a new pattern at any time. Learning to respond consciously takes practice, but every time you do it, you weaken the old wiring. Every time you pause instead of explode, reflect instead of panic, shift instead of spiral, you're building emotional intelligence. You're teaching your mind that it doesn't have to be a slave to the past. You're stepping into maturity, into ownership, into presence. Presence is the antidote to negative thinking. You can't be trapped in fear when you're fully present. You can't spiral into regret when you're grounded in the now. Most negative thoughts are not about what's actually happening. They're about what might happen or what already happened. But life doesn't exist in the past or future. It exists here. And if you can train your mind to come back to now, again, you rob negativity of its oxygen. The most powerful people in the world are not the ones who never feel fear, doubt, or anger. They're the ones who have trained themselves to feel those things without letting them control their decisions. They've created a gap between stimulus and response. And in that gap, they've found freedom. You can have that same power. It starts with awareness, it continues with discipline, and it leads to a life where you act based on your values, not your emotions. Because when you stop reacting and start responding, you don't just kill negative thinking, you build the foundation for unshakable inner peace. One of the most powerful skills you'll ever develop is the ability to reframe, because the truth is, the meaning you attach to any event, any failure, any challenge, that meaning will determine how you feel, what you believe, and what you do next. The event itself isn't what shapes your life, it's the meaning you give it. Two people can go through the same setback and one will spiral while the other will rise. Why? Because one chose a meaning that empowered them and the other chose a meaning that trapped them. That's the power of reframing. It's not about denying what happened. It's about choosing how to interpret it in a way that fuels you instead of drains you. Most people live in a prison built by their own interpretations. They don't realize that what's keeping them stuck isn't the failure, the rejection, the trauma. It's the story they've told themselves about it. They say, I failed, so I must not be good enough. Or they left me, so I must not be lovable. But these interpretations aren't facts, they're just conclusions. And conclusions can be rewritten. Reframing is the conscious decision to rewrite the story you've been repeating in your mind for years. Let's say you didn't get the job. The default frame might be, I'm not qualified, or I'll never make it. But what if you reframe that? What if instead you said, this wasn't rejection, it was redirection. Something better is coming, or maybe I needed to learn something to be ready for the next opportunity. That shift in meaning creates a shift in energy. And when your energy shifts, your actions shift. When your actions shift, your outcomes shift. This isn't about pretending everything is positive. It's about giving yourself a more resourceful lens. You're not changing the facts. You're choosing the most empowering interpretation. Because no matter what happens to you, you get to decide how you carry it. You get to decide whether it becomes a weight or a weapon, whether it breaks you or builds you. This is how the strongest people are made. Not because they had perfect lives, But because they learned to use pain as fuel, they reframed the betrayal as a wake-up call, they reframed the failure as feedback, they reframed the loss as a deeper connection to life's fragility and meaning. And in doing so, they grew stronger, wiser, more grounded. Every challenge has something to teach you, but you'll never see the lesson if you're trapped in blame. Reframing requires you to take full responsibility for your mental state. It means stepping out of victimhood and asking a higher level question. What else could this mean? What's the gift here that I'm not seeing yet? How can I grow from this? Those questions activate a different part of your brain. They shift you out of emotional reaction and into creative thinking. Reframing also works in real time. Imagine you're about to give a speech and your heart's pounding. The default frame might be, I'm nervous, and that leads to anxiety. But if you reframe it as, I'm excited, you change your state. The physiological response is the same, heart racing adrenaline, but the meaning changes everything. It gives you power instead of fear. That's how fast reframing can work. Instant shift, if you're conscious. But like any skill, reframing takes practice. You've got to train your mind to look for the better meaning, especially when things go wrong. It won't come naturally at first because negativity is wired into the brain for survival. But survival isn't the goal anymore, growth is. And growth requires you to interpret life through a new lens, one that turns problems into possibilities and setbacks into setups. Start small. The next time something frustrates you, pause and ask, what else could this mean? The next time you fail, ask ye, what did I gain that I couldn't have learned any other way? The next time you're rejected, ask, what is this opening up that I couldn't see before? These aren't just questions, they're tools. They help you take control of your mind, your emotions, and ultimately your life. Because in the end, you don't control every event, but you always control the frame. And that frame determines your future. So if you're tired of feeling stuck, hopeless, or overwhelmed, stop waiting for life to change. Start changing the way you see life. Reframing won't make your problems disappear, but it will give you the strength, the clarity, and the drive to rise above them. And once you learn to do that, no situation can break you because you'll always find the power in it. Your thoughts don't exist in isolation. They're constantly being influenced, reinforced, or weakened by your environment, by the people you spend time with, the conversations you have, the content you consume, the routines you follow. Your mind is like fertile soil if you plant positive seeds but constantly dump in poison through toxic relationships, endless distractions, negative media. You can't expect a healthy mindset to grow. You can't expect to kill negative thinking while living in an environment that constantly feeds it. You have to take a hard, honest look at what's around you because your surroundings either elevate your mindset or slowly erode it. Most people never realize how deeply their environment shapes them. They blame themselves for feeling anxious, unmotivated, or stuck without ever questioning what they're exposing their mind to every single day. If you wake up and the first thing you see is chaos, disorganization, or drama online, your brain starts the day in survival mode. If your friends always complain, gossip, or focus on what's wrong with life, your energy is pulled into that same low frequency. And it becomes a pattern, not because you chose to be negative, but because you were soaking in negativity without even realizing it. The mind is always learning, always adapting. If you're surrounded by excellence, you rise to meet it. If you're surrounded by mediocrity, you lower your standards to stay comfortable. It's human nature. You might think, I'm strong enough to stay positive regardless of my environment, but that's not how the brain works. Willpower can only take you so far. If you want long-term mental and emotional strength, you need a supportive environment to back it up. Take a moment and audit your circle. Who do you spend the most time with? Are they building you or draining you? Are they challenging you to grow or keeping you stuck in old habits? Sometimes the most important decision you'll ever make for your mindset is to walk away from the people or patterns that no longer serve your future. That doesn't mean you cut everyone off. It means you become intentional about how much access they have to your energy, because your energy is everything, and the wrong environment will lead it alive. This goes beyond people. It's also the habits you've created in your space. Is your home a place of peace or tension? Is your schedule filled with purposeful activities or mindless distractions? What books are on your shelf? What kind of noise fills your car? Every one of those details is programming your mind. You're either creating an environment that supports focus, clarity, and resilience, or one that makes negativity inevitable. You need to build an environment that reflects the mindset you want to live in. That means waking up and having a clear morning routine, not just scrolling and reacting. It means filling your space with reminders of your goals, your progress, and the person you're becoming. It means saying no to the conversations that lead nowhere and yes to the ones that challenge your thinking. It means choosing music, podcasts, books, and inputs that push you toward who you want to be. Because repetition creates reality, and your environment repeats itself to your mind all day long. When you change your environment, you give yourself a chance to breathe differently, think differently, and move differently. That doesn't mean life becomes perfect. It means you stop fighting an uphill battle every day. You stop trying to kill negative thinking while sleeping in a room full of noise, talking to people who doubt your dreams, or numbing yourself with endless entertainment. You remove the friction. You create space for growth. And yes, it will be uncomfortable. Shifting your environment means disrupting comfort zones. It means making new choices. But that discomfort is temporary. What's permanent is the mindset you build from those new surroundings. You begin to think higher because you're surrounded by higher standards. You begin to expect more from yourself because you see what's possible. You begin to believe in your future again because your environment reflects the version you already lives it. So if you're serious about killing negative thinking, you can't just do it in your head. You have to do it in your life. Clean your space, protect your time, upgrade your circle, invest in growth, create habits that reflect your vision, not your history. When your environment changes, your identity begins to shift. And when your identity shifts, the negative thoughts that once ruled your mind begin to lose their power because now your world speaks louder than your doubt. Killing negative thinking isn't something you do once and never have to worry about again. It's not a single moment of clarity or a quick motivational quote that flips a permanent switch in your mind. It's a discipline, a daily practice. Just like your body needs food, water, and movement to stay strong, your mind needs fuel, focus, and training to stay positive. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect or forcing fake optimism. It's about committing to rituals that shape the way you think, feel, and act every single day, especially when life gets messy. Your mind is like a muscle, and just like any muscle, it atrophies when it's neglected. Left on autopilot, it defaults to what it knows best. Fear, doubt, worry, frustration, that's what the brain is wired for. Protection, not possibility. So if you're not intentionally training your mind, you're unintentionally allowing negativity to run the show. That's why discipline is everything. It's what separates the people who grow through life's chaos from those who get crushed by it. The ones who stay mentally strong didn't just wake up positive. They train for it. Daily discipline starts with what you feed your mind. The moment you wake up, your brain is in a highly suggestible state. That first hour sets the tone for your entire day. So what are you letting in? Are you scrolling through anxiety-inducing headlines, comparing yourself to strangers on social media, or reacting to notifications? Or are you taking ownership of your mental space, starting your day with gratitude, movement, reflection, intention? It's not just about feeling good. It's about building emotional armor before the world throws distractions, problems, and negativity your way. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools you have. It's impossible to be deeply grateful and deeply negative at the same time. But gratitude doesn't just happen. You have to practice it. That means starting each day by identifying what's good, what's working, what you're thankful for. And not just the big things. Sometimes it's as simple as your breath, a lesson learned, or the chance to try again today. The more you look for good, the more good you'll find. That's not magic, it's neuroplasticity. The brain strengthens whatever pathways you activate most. So train it to look for strength, not struggle. Another daily discipline is the questions you ask yourself. Questions control focus, and focus controls emotion. Most people wake up asking, what's wrong? What might go wrong? What am I behind on? And they wonder why they feel overwhelmed. But what if you trained yourself to ask different questions? Like, what can I do today that brings me closer to who I want to be? Or what's one win I can create before noon? Or who needs me to show up as my best today? These questions don't just change your focus. They change your state. And your state determines the actions you'll take. Movement is also a non-negotiable. Your mind and body are deeply connected. You can't expect to feel mentally strong while sitting still, slouching over, and staying stuck in one place all day. When you move your body, whether it's a workout, a walk, or even a stretch, you shift your physiology, you release tension, you activate energy, you signal to your brain, we're alive, we're ready, we're moving forward. That movement creates momentum, and momentum kills the stagnation where negative thoughts like to hide. But here's the most important part. It's not about doing these things perfectly. It's about doing them consistently. Even if it's just 10 minutes a day, even if your routine isn't fancy, the real power is in the repetition. Because over time, repetition creates identity. You start to believe, this is just who I am now. I'm the kind of person who protects their peace, who builds their mindset, who doesn't let the day control them. They control the day. This isn't a quick fix. It's a lifelong practice. There will be days you slip, days you wake up feeling heavy, days the negative thoughts hit hard. That's okay. The goal is not perfection, it's progress. The goal is not to never feel fear or frustration, it's to become someone who doesn't live there. Someone who knows how to get back to center, back to focus, back to strength, faster than before. Positive thinking isn't luck, it's earned, it's built. It's developed through rituals that align your mind with your mission. And the more you commit to these disciplines, the more automatic they become. Eventually, the thoughts that used to dominate you, the fear, the doubt, the insecurity, they start to fade. Not because they never show up, but because you've trained yourself to rise above them. This is how you kill negative thinking, not with one powerful day, but with powerful habits stacked day after day. You become unshakable because you built it. You created it, and that's something no one can take from you.